Hello, folks. Welcome to another edition of Social Media News Live. It's one of those shows, everybody, where I enjoy the guests so much that we just start jabbering away at the start of the show. And it's like, oh, crud, I got to hit the button. So here we are. Thank you guys once again for joining us. I've been looking forward to this show for a long time. Justin Moore, who I'm a big fan of. And I didn't tell him this before the show. I think I was introduced to you right back when I started my Amazon journeys, doing Amazon influencer stuff. Chris Stone introduced us at a conference, and then I got on your newsletter, and your newsletter was one of the coolest I'd ever seen, Justin. It actually gamified it, and I'm like, I've got to get that next unlock to get those extra little sponsorship things you did, and I did that and got through it because I shared it out to my list. But I tell you, man, your newsletter is what got me on the Justin Moore train. So congrats, man. It's really, really well done.
Dude, I appreciate that. And I know that this is a show, Social Media News Live, but dude, my newsletter has become basically kind of the engine of my business. Social media is great, of course, and I'm on all the platforms. And it's a big part of my business. But at the end of the day, that has really been my core strategy over the last, 4 or 5 years building this business, is just having that direct connection with the people who really want to hear about what's going on in my world has been a game changer.
Yeah, that's cool. So we're not here to talk about email. We're talking about sponsorships, but I had to give a shout out. So already some of our friends have popped in saying hi. We got my friend Eric Fisher from the Beyond the To-Do List podcast, who is amazing, saying, good morning, gents. Good morning, my friend. Lou is here saying, hey, Jeff, good to see you. Good to see you. I saw him at PodFest not very long ago, watching over on LinkedIn. But mostly Disney says, what's up, guys? I'm listening in the car. Don't watch. Be safe, mostly Disney. Thank you that. Our friend Dustin is in the house. And the amazing Chris Stone from Cast Ahead is here. Excited for this. Justin is a legend. By the way, I'm going to give a shout out to Chris Stone and Jim Fuse over at Dealcasters. They interviewed Dustin about a month ago. Really great interview. So after you watch this, make sure you go over and to their YouTube channel, Dealcasters, and check them out because they did a great job. So, and there, speak of the devil, there is Mr. Jim Fuse here. And so we're going to have fun. Connor, how are you doing, by the way? I'm sorry. I'm just tossing you in a corner. How are you doing, my friend?
Dude, I'm ready.
Are you ready
for this one for weeks? I remember you texting me what are you doing on January 31st? And I'm like, you tell me. And we've had this date circled for a while. So I'm pumped. Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to hit go on the podcast machine and we will get started. Hello, folks. Welcome to Social Media News Live. I'm Jeff C. And you're not.
And I'm Connor Brown, and this is the show that keeps you up to date on what's happening in the world of social media and more.
Have you ever wondered what it really takes to attract sponsors who see your value? Maybe you're curious about how top creators turn brand deals into long-term partnerships. Or maybe you're ready to land sponsorships but aren't sure where to start. If so, you're in the right place because today we're excited to welcome a guest who has mastered the art of sponsorships. Justin Moore has not only built a thriving business working with brands, but has also helped countless creators secure profitable deals. He'll be sharing his journey, insider knowledge, and his best strategies for landing and growing brand partnerships. So sit back, clear your schedule, clear your mind, and get ready for this week's episode of Social Media News Live. Justin, how are you doing today, my friend?
Let's go. I'm in the house. I've got my sound effects. We're going to have a blast today, guys. We're going to have fun. We're going to make some money. Let's go. Happy Friday.
Awesome, man. I'm looking forward to it.
We're so excited. This is going to be a fun one. But if you don't know who Justin is, you should, because Justin Moore is a sponsorship coach and the founder of Creator Wizard, a school and community that teaches you how to find and negotiate your dream brand partnerships so you can stop leaving thousands of dollars on the table. Justin brings a very unique perspective because not only has he been a creator in the trenches doing sponsorships for years, but he's also run an agency. So he has insider knowledge of how big brands choose which influencers to partner with and why they pass on others. Justin's mission is to enable creators big and small to land 1 million paid brand partnerships by 2032. He's well on his way to achieving that goal. But Justin, thanks again for being here with us today.
Heck yeah, let's go.
We want to do a shout out real quick to our sponsors of the show, the amazing folks over at Ecamm. You can find out more about them at ecamm.com/Jeff. Use code Jeff15 to save 15% on your first purchase. One of the things, Justin, and so the book is amazing. So we're going to be talking about this all today, folks. This is the Sponsor Magnet book. This is like my third copy because I've got it like electronically. His assistant sent it to me electronically, and I got it for Kindle because I take notes with it. But this is an amazing book. So if you're trying to do sponsorships or want to learn how to monetize your creations, this is the book for you. I'm not blowing smoke. I really, really like this. Really, really good book. But let's dive in, because one of my favorite quotes in the book, Justin, is it says, you say, remember, don't be a creator, influencer, or entrepreneur, be a consultant. So how does that shift of thinking help land better brand deals?
It's one of the most frequent questions I get from especially smaller creators who are people who are at the outset of their journey, is they're looking at the social media landscape and it feels so saturated, right? It's like, how can I stand out in 2025? There's all these other people out there on the internet. And especially if you are starting to engage and interact with brands, it feels like, well, who am I to try to negotiate or even ask for money at all? Because it seems like there's this endless line of people behind me who are willing to accept the free thing or willing to do it for very cheap. And so if that is, if the only value proposition that you feel you have is your reach or your audience size, then yes, of course, you're going to be commoditized, right? They're going to look at you as another influencer, another creator who has, however many, 1,000 followers on the internet. And you're kind of indistinguishable from anyone else that they're talking with. And so one of the central themes of my book is, how do you differentiate yourself? And it's not just about the views or the kind of vanity metrics, the views, the engagement, the comments, the reach, the followers, the downloads, whatever platform you're on. It's not just about that. It's been my experience, having done, over 500 deals personally with my wife and making over $5 million doing it. It's been one of our primary revenue streams. It's been our experience that brands value a lot of other types of things that have nothing to do with the high level social media metrics. Really, it comes down to, at the end of the day, it's your professionalism, it's your timeliness, it's how nice you are when they send you the talking points of like, hey, here's the kind of the sound bites that we need in this video. We hit them every time with the plum. When they come back to us with feedback and they're like, hey, can you make some small edits here? We're like, sure. We don't go, how dare you violate my creative genius, which is what a lot of creators do. Candidly, I ran this agency and I have that experience. And so really, at the end of the day, I hope that this is like an exciting prospect for creators who might be on the up and up, realizing like, wow, there's kind of these intangibles that if I can get good at just being professional and frankly nice, that sponsorships might be for me as well.
Very cool.
Remember, Jeff, if you can learn to be professional.
Okay, I'll try. I'm trying, but I'll try. We both need to shave then. Yeah.
So Justin, I think a huge thing that you talk about is leaving money on the table. And going back to what you just said, it's easy for us to compare ourselves to huge, massive creators that are having these massive brand deals. And then we think, well, we're not at that level because of XYZ vanity metric. So maybe you just give me $20, right? But in reality, the partners that we're looking to partner with, they have much more money that they're actually willing to offer. So in Sponsor Magnet, when you're talking about authors leaving thousands on the table, what do you think is the most common way you're seeing creators that are just undervaluating or underpricing themselves when it comes to this?
Well, let's first talk about the mindset shift that needs to occur when you are interacting with these sponsors, because the shape of most pitches, what they take is, you reach out to a brand, you say, hi, my name's Connor. I have this many followers on my YouTube channel, or this many readers of my blog, or this many downloads I get on average on my podcast. Here's my audience demographics. I've been using your brand or your service for 3 years. Would love to collaborate. This is what most pitches sound like that brands receive. And so again, the brand reads that. They don't know who you are. There's lots of people on the internet who have lots of followers, so that's not unique. And you're asking them, would love to figure out a way to collaborate. The way that sounds to a brand is like, more work for me. Great. I don't know how to partner with this person. Right. And so they don't respond, or they delete the email. And then you as a creator convince yourself that pitching doesn't work because you think, oh, I'm constantly getting ghosted, rejected. Like this isn't working. What's the deal? And so basically, if you just kind of go outside your body for a second here, look at that pitch objectively. That is a me. Look at me. I'm awesome. Here, you pay me money. This is how that pitch feels to a brand. However, if you flip that on its head and realize like the only thing the brand cares about is themselves. All they care about is accomplishing their own business objectives. That's what they care about. They do not have random piles of money laying around to just like pay people that reach out to them. But what they do have big piles of money for is their own initiatives. It's called budgets. So maybe Ecamm or another, product or service or whatever has this newfangled AI feature that they're launching and they want everyone to know about. And they're sitting here in their marketing meeting and say, okay, we want everyone to know about this. How can we do that? How can we market? Well, I guess we could go run Facebook ads. We could go pay Jeff and Connor. We could go sponsor someone's event. We could do whatever. And so we've got 100K, 200K, whatever it is to spread the word about this new AI feature because we think that's going to drive results, drive new signups for Ecamm or whatever, right? And so you learning that, doing some research on the brand's social media, on their blog posts that they're posting on LinkedIn, you're listening to the founder of Ecamm talk on a podcast or whatever, and they're talking about this thing. You ascertain, you infer, well, I guess it seems like this is important to them and this is what they're focusing on right now. So that's what you lead with when you reach out. You say, hey, I see that this new feature that you're coming out with sounds awesome. I can help you move the needle on that in the following ways. I would love to do, 3 podcasts, I'll give you the rights to repurpose it for 3 months. I can turn around the first, integrations on the podcast in 10 days, happy to share some results of how I've helped this other, microphone company achieve results. Are you free on Thursday at 10 a.m. to talk about this? That is the pitch. And by the way, the subject line of that email is Ecamm AI in 2025 ?
Right.
Or something like that. It's not, 10,000, K, a 10K YouTuber ? Collaboration.
Yeah.
They don't care about that. They don't know you.
So is this what you're calling in your book the STP? Is this part of that when you do your surprising transformative promise? Can you I know you just kind of give a little bit about it. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so what I just outlined was actually called what I call in my book the ROPE method, ROPE. Right. So your pitch has to be relevant to a campaign that the brand is either currently running or has run in the past. So this AI feature I just made up. O stands for organic, meaning that you can tie your pitch back to organic work that you have already published that illustrates that your audience has an affinity for their brand. P stands for proof, so you can show how you've helped other brands achieve results. And E stands for easy to execute. When the brand says, "Yeah, this is kind of interesting. What did you have in mind?" And so this is the structure of pitches that I suggest everyone do because it's universal, regardless of the brand that you're trying to pitch, regardless of what the focus of your business is. Again, it's all focused around the brand. The STP is also very important. It's something I talk about in the beginning section of the book, and it's called the surprising transformative promise. But what this is more like, Jeff, it's kind of like your one-liner, like your elevator pitch.
Gotcha.
And it's how you talk about yourself and your creator persona, your creator identity out there on the internet. Let me explain why this is important. So, one of the things that I had to do when I ran an influencer marketing agency and our client, one of our clients, which is like a big brand comes to us and say, "Hey, Justin, here's 100K. We want to run an influencer campaign to spread the word about this brand, this campaign." And they say, go find us creators, go find us 10 people, 15 people, whatever that are going to be a good fit for us. And so what we would do is we would go out there and just start searching for people. And we would kind of kick the tires on them. We would go look at their profiles. We'd look at their blog. We'd look at their podcast. We just kind of would do this holistic analysis of people's platforms. And let me tell you, man, wow, it was so confusing sometimes when we would land on people's platforms and we just really wouldn't have a good sense of whether they were a good fit. We would use software tools sometimes to try to find them. So we'd say, oh, we're looking for a mommy blogger or a food creator or a lifestyle influencer or whatever the campaign was.
And you're paying like $10,000 for that, weren't you? It was expensive.
Yeah,
software.
I mean, some of these software tools were a lot of money to pay for to kind of like slice and dice and look for creators and things like that. And so what these software tools do is they go out there and they scrape all these people's like social media platforms and put them into this giant database basically. And so we would, on the surface, we would find someone's profile and, oh, they kind of look like they're a good fit. So we would click through, we would look at their profile, and then we would just like look a little bit more detailed, and it was just like, I don't think this person is a good fit. Here's a good example. I had a mom like a parenting influencer come to me one time, and she was like, why am I not getting any food sponsorships? Because like food is a really big category for kind of family focused, creators to do partnerships. And I went and I looked at her profile, and there was not a single post featuring food. And so you think about me as an agency or as a brand, they land on that person's profile, and they may check a few boxes. Oh, it's this person is the right age range. They've got kids and kind of the category, the age ranges that we want to target. But then they look at the profile, and there's not a single post featuring food. And so the brand thinks, well, I guess this person's audience is not influenced by them when it comes to food. And so I'm not going to hire them. Right. And so a big part of having a kind of a harmony between alignment between how your creator identity and the actual content that you post is illustrating to the brand that the reason that people are following you is because, and you may influence them to purchase certain categories of products, whether it's food, whether it's travel and hospitality, and they follow you for vacation ideas or whatever it is. And so this SCP process of kind of designing what is the reason that people are following you helps brands understand, okay, they're going to be a good fit to hire them.
Gotcha.
I think that ties in perfectly to this quote from our good friend Dustin from Magi, who says, as a sponsor, he himself being a sponsor, I get so annoyed when I get a pitch that is nothing but, I have X followers and X views, let's do a deal. From the sponsorship side of it, they're looking for, as you're saying, Justin, the right fit, right? A fruitful partnership. And that kind of ties into this quote from your book that I love, when you said, my goal was never to make the most money possible on each deal, but rather to increase the number of times each client hired us. So it's less about getting that white whale one time, and really more about fostering a relationship with a sponsor, with a partner that can be very, very fruitful for a long, long time to go. So with that being said, how does that work? How can creators kind of structure these deals and these outreach that's going to set them up for long-term success with these sponsors?
I think it's the dream scenario to get these ongoing recurring deals, right? Like, yeah, a lot of people say, oh, brand deals and sponsorships are great when you can get them, but I could just never really rely on that income because every deal I do feels like a one-off transaction, right? And then the brand never wants to hire me again. And there's a lot of different directions we could go down with this conversation. But in particular, I think it's realizing that, let's just think about it from the brand's perspective. Like maybe Dustin in the chat here, or big shout out. I linked my YouTube channel, by the way. And so we're live streaming on my channel right now. So I got some of my peeps in here too.
Sweet.
So I wanted to give a shout out to Anthony and some Tech Unraveled, some few folks from my community. But like, think about it from the brand's perspective, right? They've been burned a lot in the past, partnering with creators and influencers who are not professional, who turn out to be a huge pain in the butt. And so they have a very low appetite to sign a 12-month engagement with someone when they've never even done a single partnership. Right. So more often than not, they're going to want to do some sort of initial engagement with them and just kind of see how it goes, and then decide whether they want to double down and ink a longer term partnership. And I think that this is just reality. Again, you have to like put yourself in their shoes sometimes, and resolve that, like, okay, I'm just gonna like blow their socks off. I'm gonna blow their minds with this first thing. I'm gonna have, I'm gonna be super responsive. I'm gonna deliver it, ahead of the deadline. I'm gonna be super easy and responsive to work with them. One of the things actually is kind of funny about my book is that everyone always wants to talk about the super sexy steps, which is like
right.
pitch and negotiate, right? Yeah. It's like, I want to nail some more leads and get them bands on the hook, and I want to negotiate more money, and let's go, go take a trip to the beach. But really, it's actually been my experience that it's the later steps in my sponsorship wheel, which is like the concept, the production phase, the feedback phase. Those are the steps where the brand ultimately decides whether they're going to hire you again or not. Right? It's like, is this person a huge pain in the butt? Even if the campaign kind of goes well and they make some sales, if you're just like a nightmare to work with, they may just not want to renew because again, these are people on the other side of these brands. They want to enjoy their day-to-day life. They don't want to be stressed out all the time. And so if you can just be kind of like a nice person to work with, I mean, Jeff, you could probably appreciate this, right? You have had Ecamm as a sponsor of your show for years, right? And so there's a reason that they want to work with you. It's because of this rapport and relationship that you've established with them over many years. And that doesn't happen by accident, right?
Right. And a lot of it, I think, too, Justin, is you know, you mentioned being nice, but also being proactive. Like, I'm in Ecamm's Slack channel every week and going, how can I help? What do you got to promote? What do you got to do? I mean, it's not, you don't just get a sponsorship deal and just sit back and, like, you know, cash the checks. In my opinion, you have to be very proactive and continue to add value constantly, or why continue the relationship? I mean, that's kind of the way I think about it. So.
Well, and I mean, if you think about it real quickly, think about it again. I do this a lot in the book. Is like, okay, let's put our hat on. Let's imagine we're the brand again. Okay. Imagine we're the brand. If everyone else that they're interacting with is like, how much are you going to pay me? You know, and then they just like, you know, they post it and then they ghost them and then the creator never talks to them again, versus you're in the Slack channel, you're proactively asking, how can I help? Who can I introduce you to? This type of thing. You like, okay, I hope you're okay with me sharing this, but like right before we hit record on this, you're like, hey, let me introduce you to the folks over at Ecamm. They're amazing. Like, they look at you as a connector, as a nexus in this industry. And that is, how do you put a dollar value on that? It's very hard to put a dollar value on that, but if you are out there as just an ongoing advocate for their brand, that is worth a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And plus you find that, and I will agree that Ecamm's a unicorn because they're a great company. I mean, they have a great community, great people. I enjoy them. I hung out with them at Disney, you know, a week ago. So, I mean, 2 weeks ago. So I like the people. So that makes it kind of easy too. I want to pull up some comments from some of our friends who are in the chat. So much great stuff going on. Thank you for having your channel connected. We got Playing the Mom Game saying, good morning. 2025 is my sponsorship year. Ordered the book, and I can't wait to get it and read it and get going. Amazing good book. You are on the right path playing with the mom game. So, and Carrie says we should have Dollar Shave Club will not sponsor this show. Probably not. Correct. Yeah, you're very correct there.
Hold on a second. Hold on, because The Rock has a hair care brand and he's bald.
That's true.
So
very true.
It's called Papatui. Okay, so just never say never. That's all. Yeah. That's all I'm gonna say.
And some more people plug in your book. Chris is saying just having some example scripts from Justin's history of communicating with brands was massively helpful for me in securing deals. The book is so money, massive value. Yes, very, very true. Chris, thank you. He connected me to Justin many moons ago. And Pat, our friend Pat Mills, is saying, just now getting into this for myself after working for companies with their affiliates. Yeah, get the book, Pat. I'm telling you, it's a great book. It's a great read. And Justin, if you can't tell, it's kind of funny. It's not just a dry like manual. There's some funny things in there that are pretty good. I won't spoil the dad jokes, but they're pretty awesome. And then we've got we were talking about long-term sponsorship. Simplified Gardening says, I had one sponsor for more than 5 years, 1,000 pounds every single month. So that kind of stuff happens. It's just not, you know, if you have those relationships and you go after them, it can happen for you. So very, very cool. Before we go into this next section, Justin, I want to ask you this question. What do you think is a silent deal killer that most creators don't even realize is costing them sponsorships?
I mean, the silent deal killer, it's a very simple one. It's at the end of the campaign, after you've published whatever it is, you never talk to them again. And the reason that you never talk to them again after they've paid you is because you're terrified of asking them, hey, how did it go? Because a lot of creators are terrified of that answer. They're worried that the brand will say, wow, we generated no sales. We hate you now. You suck. Never talk to us again. This is what in people's minds, this is what they think is going to happen. And so they just don't do it. And this is what contributes to this insidious mindset that sponsorships are just every time it's a one-off transaction. But if you can have the humility to realize that when I reach out to a brand and I ask that question, there's this famous Nelson Mandela quote that I love. I never lose. I either win or learn. And I love this quote because it's like, you know, regardless of the answer, you're going to learn something from the brand. If they tell you, hey, it went great, thanks so much, great. Now it's your turn to pitch them again on the next collaboration. Great. They love you now. However, if they say, well, it just went okay. This is what most of the time, if you ask that question and they are not like effusive about how it went, they're going to say, oh, it was okay. You know, we were hoping it would do a little bit better, maybe get a little bit more views or more sales or whatever. Now it's your turn to say, okay, thank you so much for telling me that information. I have a few ideas of why that might be the case, of why it might have underperformed a bit. But do you have some suspicions of why you think that is? You know, I've done this, quick story. I've done this before, and the brand said, oh gosh, you know what? Thanks for asking. We're so sorry. We actually realized that we wanted really to share like a case study instead of just this kind of pure direct response thing that you did. And we forgot about that the case studies are way better. Let's actually do that on the next integration. Because this is a brand who's doing like 50, 100 partnerships every month. And it's just like volume. And it just like slipped their mind like, oh, we should do a case study next time. That's probably a better idea. So just like simply asking that question allowed the brand to just like reveal more information to you. And another reason that, and another thing that might reveal is that they were measuring the success of the campaign internally differently than they revealed to you at the beginning. So they may have told you like, oh yeah, awareness. That's really what we care about. This new AI feature is really important to us. And you're like, okay, great. Awareness. If it's awareness, like views, downloads, comments, engagement, that's the key performance indicator that I'm going to optimize for as a creator, because that's what they told me, awareness. Right. However, right at the end, you say, oh, you know, how'd it go? And they'd be like, well, we hope it was going to generate sales. And you're like, hold on a second here. You never told me that conversions was a goal that you were measuring here. Okay, great. There was a miscommunication here. Now that I know that, here's what I would suggest instead. I would actually suggest that we do a newsletter blast for the next partnership, because let's do a coupon code. Let's put it straight to the newsletter, do a couple integrations there. So I think just a big part of it is like realizing that you have to put together what I call a post-campaign report at the end of a campaign that allows the brand to realize like it's not just the quantitative stuff that we need to measure here, it's also the qualitative stuff. What happens a lot is like, especially if you're a creator listening who say, yeah, I don't really have like a social media presence per se. I have maybe like a podcast or a newsletter or maybe an in-person event or something. A lot of times you might get feedback on the sponsorship that's private. So maybe a creator is DMing you privately about it, or they're replying to your email, you know, with it, or, you know, it's a podcast, you know, integration. So they're messaging you privately or whatever. They may be asking you questions about the product or service or whatever. And the brand is not seeing that. If it's not a public, you know, YouTube video or a public Instagram post or whatever, they're not seeing those comments. And so it's your job to circle all those, screenshot the heck out of those, and use that as fodder to pitch the next collaboration.
Yeah.
We move on into, you talked a little bit about it already, Justin, but your sponsorship wheel and this concept of building this system that, you know, not only landing the brand deals, but hopefully you're in this system where they'll re-sign, right? And you'll do another activation with you. Chris Stone calls it out, get them on the wheel. It's an outstanding process. You talk a lot about it in the book, but can you just kind of give a broad overview of what the sponsorship wheel looks like, and where do you think creators struggle the most, in what stage of the sponsorship wheel, and why they struggle there?
Yeah. So just a quick overview of what the sponsorship wheel is. It's my 8-step process to land consistent, well-paying sponsorships. And so step 1 is pitch. Step 2 is negotiate. Step 3, contract. Step 4, concept. Step 5, produce. Step 6, feedback. Step 7, publish. Step 8, analyze. So it's this, you know, process where you take a brand from start to finish, essentially. And your question around where do creators struggle the most? I actually have data to back this up, because every time that creators join my Brand Deal Wizard program, my course, I send them this ingestion survey, basically saying, okay, let's get a snapshot of where you're at with your strengths. And then at the end of the program, they take it again and we can kind of measure how they've improved. And every single person always rates themselves the lowest on pitch and negotiate, which is step 1 and 2, because those feel like the most intimidating steps. However, the really interesting thing is that everyone always rates themselves the highest on the production phase, which is, production, feedback, a publication, because that's what we're used to doing all day long, right? That's our wheelhouse, is like creating content, publishing it, and things like that. And what I have also found, though, is that people tend to overrate their ability in those areas, just because they think, I got this. I know how to publish a piece of content, like, no brainer. But that overconfidence also can lead to sloppiness, I've found.
Gotcha. We have a great question here from my pal, Eric Fisher. And this is a great one because he says, if you've never done a brand deal before, how do you approach that first one? Do you approach many possible partners, or do you narrow it down? And how do you start with have any prior examples of partnership? Like you don't have any campaigns.
Yeah. This is a great question, Eric. I appreciate this one. Okay, so let me tell you what to not do. It's to sit alone in your room and meditate and think, who are the brands that I want to work with? Who are the brands that are really a great fit for me because I've used them for the last 4 years? So that's the wrong approach. It doesn't matter whether you've used the brand or the product or not. Of course, you'll want to have some experience with it probably, but that is table stakes. Of course, you have to love the product and be willing to talk about it. But again, if that's all you're leading with when you reach out, I used your product for 4 years. Again, that's what every single person says who reaches out to them. We're missing a really critical step here, which is that we have to involve our audience in this process of discovery so that we can learn more about them, so that we can select the right sponsors that will be a good fit for them. So I talk about this process called doing a psychographic research survey, where you're actually asking them about their lives. You're saying, hey, I can see the demographics, on YouTube Analytics or Instagram or whatever platform you're on. I could see a little bit ages and, your sex and where you live and all that. But I want to know more about you. I'm planning out my content strategy for 2025. And I want to make sure that my content serves you. Would you answer these 6 or 7 questions? It would really help me out, right? What type of jobs do you have? Are you married? Do you have kids? How are you interacting with my content? Are you watching it in line at Starbucks for 2 minutes? Are you sitting down every Sunday and, binging my last 3 podcast episodes or whatever? What brands and products and services are you using and loving right now? What is keeping you up at night? Right? What problems do you have, right? And so you're asking these deeper questions to learn more, get this texture behind who is in your audience, who are you reaching? And let's say, for example, Jeff, I'm just going to make something up here. Let's say that you did this survey for your podcast audience or your live stream audience, whatever, and you get the results of this survey and you realize that 35% or 40% of respondents have a brick and mortar store. You're like, wow. I did not realize. I thought here I was, social media news live. I thought everyone was like internet creators, internet businesses, right? I didn't realize that I had such a huge segment of my audience that has a brick and mortar store. And the reason they're following me is because they want to leverage social media to get more foot traffic. I don't know. I just discovered that. I didn't realize this. But you know what they're saying? One of the problems that they're saying that they're having is recruiting. They can't keep enough qualified labor or like that. That's like a big challenge for them. So maybe I should go out there and hire a recruiting firm, like go pitch them for a sponsorship and say, hey, would love to do a webinar in partnership with your recruiting experts to help this segment of my audience with this challenge that they're having. Now, that would have never been a sponsor you would have thought to pitch. But again, it's not about you. It's about serving your audience with this issue that they're having. And so I think that this reveals so many surprising and interesting things of not just sponsors that you could pitch, but content that you could create. Right. Wow, I should probably make some videos about this because this is like an issue that my audience is having. So I think it's just a game changer. Yeah, I think, first of all, Eric, that was a great question. But the first thing you need to do, number 1, is buy the book right here. Sponsor Magnet. Just going to do that really quick. And you can actually,
Pat Mills and Bag Boy, who just commented, I just bought the book.
Yeah.
More guys, I'm just doing it. I'm doing it. We're doing it. Come on. Thanks, Pat. Thank you.
Thanks. And by the way, this is also being live streamed on Amazon. So if you're watching on Amazon, right there at the bottom, there in the carousel, you can just click on a little button, buy the book. There's 3 or 4 people who have done it, and Pat says this is such a great tip or info to pass on to us. So yeah, I knew you mentioned this about the audience. I knew my audience was interested in sponsorships because a lot of creators watch the show. They're kind of in that stage where they're trying to figure it out, just like Eric was saying. So I think that's a great a great way. But yeah, buy the book, folks. It is. We're not just blowing smoke. I don't bring people on who I haven't read their book, and I read this book from cover to cover, and so I do highly recommend it. Real quick, I want to talk about, in the book you say the closer you get to a brand, the closer you are to landing a sponsorship. And we kind of talked about this a little bit with, kind of my journey with Ecamm. But what are some creative ways to build those relationships with those sponsors before the pitch? Like, you don't want to tag everybody and spam them, but what are some ways that you can, like, maybe come to the brand's attention before you go in and pitch them the sponsorship opportunity?
Yeah. So I'll take a slight issue with what you just said. Is
Okay.
Of course you don't want to spam them,
Right.
by tagging them all the time. But I do think that there is a lot of value in starting to tag brands that you love in your authentic content that you're posting, and starting to get on their radar. I get this question a lot from people, or this gripe. I get people in my DMs who are like, I'm so mad. This person over here just got sponsored by my dream brand. And how dare, I didn't even know that person has never talked about that brand, but I've been the one who's been using it for 3 years. How come the brand didn't work with me? Right. And so they get salty and they turn from like an Uber fan into an Uber hater. I've seen this so many times, man. And I simply ask them, okay, well, have you ever like tagged the brand in anything? Have you ever talked about them publicly? And the creator's like, well, no, because if I tag them for free, why would they pay me? And I said, look, a lot of brands, they do not have a lot of bandwidth. If they are not using social listening software, which is tools that allow them to monitor if people are talking about them on the internet, a lot of brands don't use that tooling right now. And so if you're not talking about them or tagging them, how are they going to even know you exist? It's like they don't have oftentimes the ability to just keep tabs on everyone who's like a potentially influential customer. They just don't. And so the onus is on you to get on their radar, start tagging them, start engaging, connect with them, head of marketing or the, influencer marketing manager on LinkedIn, and start engaging with their posts on LinkedIn, follow them on Twitter, whatever, just like become kind of a known quantity in this person's universe, so that when you do ultimately reach out, pitching a prospective collaboration, you're not a nobody. They've seen your profile photo before. They know who you are. It goes a long way. And just circling back real quickly to the point of like, well, if I tag them for free, why would they pay me? I think Dustin, who's a business owner, can probably, give a testament to this, that, when a brand decides that they want to sponsor someone or hire a creator to talk about them, there's usually very specific messaging that they want this person to say, whether it's a seasonal promotion or some sort of very specific campaign where they need sound bites because they're going to take this content, cut it down into a 30-second video that they can run for paid advertising or something. And so when you're doing just like a normal organic free shout out on social media, you're not saying any of those talking points. Right. You're not saying the Justin10 promo code for 10% off your first purchase. You're not saying ecamm.com/Jeff. You're not saying those things. You're just saying your organic affinity and your love for the brand. And so this is the reason that a brand is going to pay you and hire you, is to check those boxes.
Yeah, I think those are great tips. When I was talking about, because I tagged Waffle House one time, and they wouldn't use my picture and stuff, and I was like, yeah. And when I first started, I was just honored that Waffle House, because there's a beautiful sunset in Texas over Waffle House, and they used my photo. So very cool,
dude. Your claim to fame.
I
tell you, them perpetual usage forever, Jeff. Come on, man.
I just wish I would have got free waffles. That's all. I should have held out. I should have read your book. Once again, more people are continuing to buy the book. Tony Alaka is saying that he bought it. My friend Rich Watts just bought it. So Lou Bartun just got the Kindle version. That's what I do. So very, very cool. Connor, you had a question, I know. So go ahead.
I did. Well, I'm first surprised that you even looked up for your pecan waffles at Waffle House to notice the sunset. So that's shocking to me.
That's right. Picture. You couldn't see over the stack of waffles, so it didn't matter anyway. Yeah,
that makes sense. That makes more sense. So, Justin, creators in our sponsorship wheel, so often we're really focusing on those first two steps because we want to just reach out. Right. And we just hope that we get a response. Right. And we put all of our eggs in that basket, and we're waiting. Mm-hmm. And eventually when they do reach back out, now we're at the point where we realize, oh my gosh, we have to negotiate. And so many of us just in the world are terrified of negotiating. Right. Yeah. We're excited that they just reached out and they responded. And then we kind of crumble and we're like, well, whatever you want to pay us. Right. No big deal. What do you think the biggest pricing mistakes you've seen creators make are, and how should they really work on reframing their rates so they're not leaving money on the table once they finally get to that negotiating step?
So I just want to first empathize with everyone who might be listening or watching that this is a very normal thing, because I was like this when I started out, because I didn't grow up. I didn't go to school and to like take classes on becoming a cold hard negotiator.
Right.
Like when in undergraduate, when I was graduating, like I was in medical devices before this. I was not a creator, right? And so I didn't have formal training in this when we like first started doing this. To compound that, a lot of us may have grown up in families or environments where money was tight or it was taboo to discuss, and you just didn't talk about money, right? And so the prospect of like negotiating or advocating for yourself is a terrifying prospect. And so I just want to like acknowledge here that a lot of people have head junk about this, and that's like a very normal thing. And so just like, let's acknowledge that that's like a baseline for a lot of people. But the beautiful part about it is that this is something that you can learn and get better at. It's not like an innate thing that you're, I'm never going to be able to be confident to be interacting with brands. And so I just want to hear everyone here who might be feeling this way, that this is like a normal thing. This was me in the beginning. But what oftentimes happens, how this manifests when you're negotiating with a brand, is that oftentimes you will negotiate against yourself a lot when the brand didn't even ask you to. So for example, I could share this, like when I ran my influencer marketing agency, here's an example of what would happen. So a brand would hire, my agency to hire some creators. And so they said, yeah, let's reach out to those 5 people. So we'd reach out to them. We'd say, hey, our client, this brand wants to collaborate with you. Are you interested? Here's kind of the campaign and the scope of work. How much would you charge for something like this? And then the creator would spit back. They would say, $1,000, right? And we'd say, okay, great. Like we'll go back and we'll talk with the brand and the client. We'll see if they want to move forward. We just got to like finalize a few things. And so a couple days would pass, and we hadn't like gotten any green light or final word from the client yet. And then the creator would email back and be like, hey, I can actually do it for 500, because they really thought that the absence of an update meant that they'd scared us off. When in reality, we just hadn't gotten an update yet. We didn't know. Right. And so like, that's a big problem, is people negotiating against themselves. The second, big mistake that I think people make, and we're going to get a little technical here, we're going to get a little bit into the weeds here, but I think it's going to help folks, is that the most common negotiations tactic that people have is a brand reaches out and they say, how much for, one integrated YouTube video, or how much to like do some ad reads on your podcast or something. Right. And the creator goes, 1,500. They just like stammer. They just like spit out a number. They spit out one number. And so the only negotiating leverage that they have from that point forward is price. The only thing they can negotiate is whether to kind of, actually, it's only one direction. The only way they can negotiate is down, right? Because they said the number, right? And so in reality, spitting out one number like that is the quickest way to leave money on the table. Because in reality, what you should be doing is providing multiple packages to the brand, even if they did not ask for that. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of reasons why you want to provide packages to the brand. And the first is that they may have never known that you had presence or reach on other platforms. So they may have come inbound for a YouTube video, but you coming back to them with a couple different packages allows you to illustrate to them that like, hey, I've actually got a newsletter with my 3,000 of my most engaged audience members on it. And we could actually amplify the campaign over there. And they may say, oh, wow, we didn't even realize that. We didn't do that deep dive of a research into you. And wow, I didn't even know you had that newsletter. That is huge. And so the packages not just allow you to illustrate your holistic reach, but it also allows you to do something called price anchoring, which is helping the brand realize that the only way that they can accomplish all of their objectives is to essentially pick the top package. And we can go maybe into this a bit more detail if you'd like, but this is the philosophy.
Yeah, so that was one of the big takeaways, and I think a lot of people who've gotten from the book. And by the way, if you've read the book, and I've seen some people already say in the comments that they just went over and left a review on Amazon, do that because that really does help out booksellers.
It hugely helps. Yes, thank you so much. And if you want to get extra credit, and I'll love you forever, attach a photo, or I'll give you 3 gold stars if you upload a video review. Who's going to be the first one to do it?
Yeah.
Who's going to be the first one to do it? And you'll get affiliate commission probably too, right? Yeah.
So go check that out. So, and by the way, once again, if you're watching on Amazon, right there down at the bottom in the carousel, I think it's the second spot. I wanted to bring up this comment from my amazing daughter. She says, she's watching over on LinkedIn, says, some people think that taking sponsorship makes a creator less credible, like they're just saying what the brand wants. What's your take on that? And how can creators work with sponsors while still keeping their audience's trust? Great.
Oh, I love this question. I love this question so much. And if you're just joining us or you missed that portion of the conversation, the way to prevent this is to involve your audience in the conversation, like we talked about earlier, where you're actually soliciting feedback from them. This example that I gave of the 35-40% of business owners that are having this active issue with recruiting or whatever, when you come out with the sponsorship about recruiting, you're not going to worry or wonder whether your audience is going to revolt, because they're going to be like, oh my God, thank you so much. You listened to us. We were having this issue and you brought this solution to us that is going to help us. And by the way, it's not just sponsors that you can help your audience with. I have this framework that I call audience first offers, and it's your PSA, your products, your sponsors, and your alliances. So a lot of people listening might actually sell things directly to their audience, whether it's courses, coaching, a book, whatever it is. And you think, you know what? I just want to I don't want to do sponsorships because I'm just selling my own stuff and I'm going to make way more money on that than working with a brand. So why would I do that? And so yes, of course you're going to help your audience with those products. But when you do these surveys, you're probably going to realize my audience has quite a few problems that I'm never going to make a course for. Right. I'm never really going to write a book for that or do coaching for that, because that just exceeds my specialty, or I'm not going to do that, right? And so, maybe I should go out there and find a sponsor to actually fill this gap or this void of this issue that they're having. But this last bucket of alliances is another one that people are really scared about, because what if you have a friend who's a coach they're a perfect fit to help your audience solve that problem? You better get your dang friend in front of your audience to help them solve their problem, because what's going to happen when your audience member's business and life has been so massively improved by your friend? They're going to trust you more, Jeff and Connor. They're going to think, oh my God, Jeff was the person who introduced me to this, this person over here, and now I don't have any recruiting issues anymore. Now I can focus on other things to grow the business. And so the next time that they want to invest in their business, they're going to hire you to coach them, Jeff, or they're going to buy your course or buy your book or whatever it is, right? And so it's a very contradictory idea, but it's it's a scarcity mindset that if you introduce your audience to other people or other sponsors, that somehow you're going to make less money. No, you're actually going to make more money doing this, because your audience, it's not about you. It's about serving your audience.
So I want to ask, because I think this is kind of insider baseball stuff, but I would consider, when you talk about alliances, which is something I think most people do not talk about, and I really love that you talk about that in your book and here as well. But would you say that what you have with Jay Clouse would be an alliance? Because I know he bought 1,000 of your books and gave them away, and also 100. Oh, sorry,
100 is a lot. But 100 is still a lot.
Still a lot. But also, then you were in his news, in his newsletter. And so I know you guys are friends and you work together on this stuff too, but I can see that really kind of being an alliance, because both you provide something to his audience that he really doesn't talk about, sponsorships, and you were able to do this really cool thing together. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah. So, Jay is absolutely one of my best friends. And so I would say it definitely supersedes an alliance, because he's one of my best friends. Right. But 100%, this idea where it's just I would send people his way regardless, whether I had an affiliate link or not. I'm just going to, I'm not the person, I am not an expert in community building. He is, I'm not. And so anytime anyone says oh, I want to have a private membership or a community or something like that, and I don't really know what I'm doing, I would love to it seems like you know what you're doing, because you have a community. And I'm I do have that, but that's not my specialty. I looked at Jay when I launched mine. I joined his when he first launched it, because I wanted to see the master at work. I want to see how does the person who's the best in the business do this? And so I send everyone his way, because this is not my expertise. And so I don't know if everyone listening or watching believes in this, but I believe in karma. And it's just if I send someone out of my universe and they come inbound and they're I'm not doing sponsorship, but help me with this, I'm just I can't help you, but go talk to my friend Jay. I just know that at some point, if it's meant to be, they're going to come back to me. And, or even if they never come back to me, they're going to think of me as a good guy. And if they have a friend who has an issue with sponsorships, they're going to be like, hey, I've never worked with Justin, but he seems like the guy for sponsorships. And so you should probably talk to him. And so it's not even just about like them becoming a customer. It's just like establishing goodwill in the world, in the universe. Right. And it all comes back around. I really believe that.
Yeah. Be nice, folks. It works.
Yeah. Just be nice. Just be nice.
Yeah.
Be nice. Be nice. Don't be a jerk. So we talked about, things that we're not experts in, right? We talked a little bit about negotiating, how it's very normal for people to not be experts in that. And us as creators, we're putting our expertise in creating and talking on the topics that we're experts at negotiating. Even though it's something we have to do, we learn to get better at it. Another side of that is also contracts, right? We're not all legal experts here, but we also know the importance of contracts when it comes to signing with sponsors and coming up with deals and partnerships. They're super intimidating. But Justin, can you talk a little bit about kind of where to start with contracts and what do you think is one sponsorship contract clause that everyone needs to fight for and why it's so important, if you have one in particular?
Yeah. Okay. I've got an easy one. Just open up the contract and do Control F or whatever, whether you're on a Mac or a PC, and just search for the word perpetuity or perpetual, which basically means that somewhere in this document, the brand is asking to get the rights to do something forever until the end of the universe, until the end of time. And so you should basically never agree to letting the brand do anything for forever. So that's just like an easy little funny hack. But I have a kind of a nuanced take on contracts. First and foremost, I think AI is a huge resource that has basically burst onto the scene, that can be very useful, not necessarily as like final legal advice that you would want to run home and take to the bank, but as something that can absolutely help you translate legalese into basic deal points or bullet points that you can comprehend in English, where you could say, here's my understanding of what this deal is that I saw, that I'm agreeing to. I'm doing this many videos. I've agreed to this. And just here's the contract. Is this roughly like in alignment with what we discussed over the phone or over email or whatever? And AI is very good at distilling that and basically being like either yes or no, or here's like a few clauses that you may want to consider or ask about. I do still think there's a lot of value in having a lawyer who is, someone who may not be, a big hot shot lawyer that's charging $1,000 an hour, but is someone who can just give you this kind of comfort that, hey, here's roughly what I think. Like, can you just do a quick blessing of this to make sure it looks good? That is a worthwhile expense. A lot of creators tell me that they don't want to go down the road of hiring lawyers or legal expertise or things like that because maybe the deal size is not very large. And if I hire a lawyer for, 2 hours or whatever, there's all my profit. It's gone. I just had to spend $500, $600 with this person. And so the advice that I give in those scenarios is like, imagine you're launching any business. You're launching a shoe store, right? There's a lot of costs that would be required to actually, before you can sell a single shoe, right? You got to lease a space, you got to hire employees, you got to get inventory, you got to get insurance, you got to get all this stuff, right? What are your costs as a creator? A phone, a computer, an internet connection, and maybe hiring a lawyer for an hour or two and saying, hey, can you create a boilerplate contract template for me where the first 6 or 7 pages are just standard? I'm never going to touch that. But the last page is the appendix or the statement of work. That's the one where it's highlighted in yellow and just, I'm going to fill out those are the things that I edit each time. That's a worthwhile investment for you, even if you don't have a deal in hand as a creator to justify that expense.
Yeah, I think that's super important. In fact, what I do, I use it it's like insurance. Like I use a service called Legal Shield, which gives me like a blanket thing. And then if I have those questions, I can send them off and I'm not hit with those like $300 an hour lawyer things. So that's what I use. And it's been what's worked for me so far. But I'm with you. Like if you have any question, have them kind of put a template together, then you can go and adjust it that way. I think that's great advice. We've got some more great comments from our amazing audience. This is a great question from Pat Mills. She goes, are people not using media kits anymore? I always ask for one before talking with the person. So what are your thoughts on media kit? Is that part of your arsenal, Justin, for sponsorships? What do you think about that?
So I'm assuming Pat is on the brand or the business side, which is why she's asking for media kits. So I'm just going to share my own experience and my own advice that I give to creators, which is that of the last 100 deals that my wife and I have done, only about 2 or 3 brands have actually asked for media kits. So, the conventional wisdom in years past was like, okay, you got to make a media kit, have it be pixel perfect and have it be beautiful and have a bunch of brand logos in it of people you've worked with and all that stuff too. And I actually don't think that that's very useful. I would be interested in your perspective on this, Pat, as someone who works on a brand or a business. But like, what probably would be a more useful thing for a brand is case studies that are relevant to your objectives for the campaign that you want to run. So I talk about this in one of the first chapters of my book. And it's called the ARC framework. So ARC, meaning that what are the brand's goals? It's either awareness, repurposing, or conversion. And so if I'm talking with the creator where I want to hire them to spread the word about this campaign, I want to know, have they ever done a deal with another brand where they've driven awareness or where they've driven a lot of sales? I don't really want to see case studies or examples where there's misalignment between the goal of what I'm trying to do, because it's not that useful for me to know that, oh yeah, they got a bunch of views on this video, but I'm trying to sell stuff here. And if you can't show me like some examples of how you drove sales, I'm going to probably invest money. It's going to be a bad investment because, there's just misalignment there. And so this is usually the advice that I give to creators is like media kits can be useful to help you create clarify your own creator identity, kind of going back to that STP thing that we talked about at the beginning of like, what is my creator identity? How am I marketing myself? That's useful. But really, I'm much more of a fan of getting on discovery calls with brands, if possible, getting a bunch of information from them, and then putting together basically a customized proposal that has a lot of the same information that you'd put in a media kit, except it's more customized. It's tailored to what the brand told you on the phone call, what they're trying to accomplish. In fact, page 1 of this proposal is what I heard on the call, from you. It's kind of a regurgitation of that. And then, you could still have information about your following and your platforms and all that stuff in this proposal, but it feels much more customized and tailored to the brand than just a boilerplate media kit.
So one of the questions, I know, like when you contacted me about the podcast or coming on the show here, you sent me a video. And it sounds from other people I've talked to, that's kind of your modus operandi. You'd like to send those video introductions where it's very personalized. It's a video of you talking to me. Very, very cool. Do you do that same sort of thing when you are approaching brands?
Oh yeah. Heck yeah, baby. That's my secret weapon.
That's what yeah.
Yeah, in fact, actually, I recently sent out to my newsletter. I actually pitched a brand for my upcoming in-person event, Sponsor Games, and I used a video, and I actually sent the video to my newsletter. I was like, hey, I haven't locked this brand in yet, but hey, you want to see what I'm doing to like try to get sponsors for my event? And people loved it. People really, really loved seeing that because it just stands out. It's like I'm saying, hey, Stacy, or like I'm saying, calling the person by name, and I'm saying, hey, I saw that I still do the rope pitch that we talked about earlier, right? The relevancy, organic, proof, easy to execute. I still do that, but it's in a video form. I'm saying, hey, I saw that you're trying to spread the word about XYZ. I also, have an audience of about 35,000 creators, and I talk about this type of thing a lot. And I link, and I kind of share my screen and I show it. I say, here's an episode where I talked about this, or here's a video where I talk about this. In fact, hey, look what this person said in the comment section. Awesome, right? And then I say, here's what I'd love to do for you. Happy to share some results, blah, blah, blah. And I send that video instead. And man, I have stratospheric results doing videos like that. And dude, it takes like 3 minutes.
But it's so good. It's so personal. Yeah.
Yeah. So to clarify, it does take a bit more time to like do the research before I turn the video on, obviously, if like I want to know what I'm going to say. Right. But like all in, this is like a 15, 20-minute process. And the success rates in terms of responses is just so much higher than the kind of copy and paste spray and pray approach.
So that secret sauce, I mean, I'm telling you, wait to the end. That's where we give the great advice. Justin, I have so many more questions, and you're so gracious with your time. Thank you so much for today. We'll have to have you back on because there's so much more I want to dive into, and I think you really helped my audience today. But before we go, I want to make sure you have time to talk about your book and Sponsor Games, which is coming up really, really quickly. So go ahead, my friend. The floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate you both so much. This was such a blast. You could probably tell, I could talk about sponsorship strategy like 24 hours a day from now until I die. And that's probably what I'm going to do. This is going to be my life's work. So if, anything that we've talked about today is just scratch the surface on really what I cover in my book Sponsor Magnet. And really the kind of way I describe it is I have literally distilled everything that I know about brand partnerships, having done it for, 15 years along with my wife, as well as running this influencer marketing agency for 7 years. I've distilled all of that into the book. And so I didn't hold back anything. This is not a giant sales pitch for something else. It's like I've open sourced everything that I know. And so you literally can get it for very inexpensively. Whether it's at sponsormagnet.com is usually kind of the best place to do it. And so even if you're someone who's sponsorship curious, or maybe even a sponsorship skeptic, I do think that it'll be worth your time. My in-person event, I have been going to creator focused events for a decade plus. And I've always, there's always been like maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 talks about sponsorships. And I was like sitting here thinking like sponsorships is the number one revenue stream for me and basically everyone I know. Why is there not more talks just about this thing? And why is there no event devoted to this topic? That never made sense to me. And so I was like, you know what? After enough time, I was like, I guess it's me. I'm the guy. I'm the guy who's got to make this event. And so, it's I'm launching my very first in-person event called Sponsor Games, March 16th to 19th in San Antonio, Texas. And it's like kind of like an anti-conference. There's no keynotes, there's no panels, there's no workshops. I'm turning my 8-step sponsorship wheel that we talked about today into 8 games that you will play alongside other creators to learn and master these concepts. And I think it's just going to be a game changer to just practice this stuff, role play, pitching, negotiating, and get kind of real-time feedback from me and my coaches on my team. And the best part, Jeff and Connor, is that there's going to be 8 finalists that advance to the sponsor tank. And one lucky person, you're going to be pitching. There's going to be a panel of real partnership marketing managers on this judges panel, and one lucky person is going to walk away with $5,000 in cash. So, dude, it's going to be fun.
That'll be cool. Wow, I can't wait. And I got to figure out a way to get to San Antonio, not very far from the Longview, so we'll have to do this. So, Connor Brown, where can people find out more about you and everything from the Unsinkable Connor Brown?
You can head over to vacationkingdoms.com. You can follow me at Vacation Kingdoms across the social media. You're someplace cold, you want to plan a vacation someplace warm, reach out to me. I can help with that. Justin, this has been awesome. What an incredible conversation. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you to our sponsor. We talked about sponsorships, but here's one of the best, eCam.com/Jeff. You can find out more about eCam, which helps produce the show. You can make videos like Justin was talking about that you can send to brands that you're pitching with eCam. eCam.com/Jeff. Use code Jeff15 to save 15% on your first episode. Thank you for everybody who is here today. All the great questions. Thank you for just your time. Gary, thank you for being here. Simplified Gardening. Pat, everybody who showed up and asked your questions. We wouldn't be able to do the show without you. Thanks again. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.